Let's get together to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise. Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to FESIG. Today is the 5th of January. It's the first official video with public attendance of the year 2022. So welcome everyone and Happy New Year to you all. And I'm sure this year is going to be a very good year, I suppose, when things are going to change for the better. And to flag off this year, actually, for FESIG, we had the Man of Light, Dumitran, the mystic of Romania, speaking earlier on the 3rd of January on a private session. And he brings the light, and we need the light. We need the blessings of the light from source to get going for for a better time for humanity, right? And then we have with us today is a very special speaker as well. Let me just share screen on the agenda of today's meeting. Okay, bear with me for a moment. I'm going to click share screen now. All right. Okay, so oops, I don't know why it just, okay, there you go. Share screen, share. Yeah, so this is FESIG's logo, a 96 meeting, 5th of January, GMT 7:30 GMT and 2:30 EST, Eastern Standard Time, taken the winter time into consideration. Do go to our website to find out what we are. And I don't want to repeat what we are in every video, because if you have seen our past videos, you know exactly what we are. It's a platform where science meets spirituality. And this is a learning platform where we invite speakers, awesome, brilliant, some of the most brilliant minds in the world to come and speak and show us what they know so we can learn and improve and develop whatever we are here to develop. So it's not just about free energy, it's about healing as well, it's about healing the human vessel too. So today we have, if you see on the screen, we've got Clayton Thomas, the CEO and founder of the Root brand, and his wife, Dr. Christina Ram, will speak about how they have come out with the Root brand products that helps people detox the bad things out of their body and support it to wellness by putting in things there to help the body perform and work at an optimum level. Their followers claim that this is the holy grail of supplements. Wow. Anyway, so I suppose our title of this video that is recorded for this meeting that will be published on our channels will be Detoxification and Supplementation to Cure the Cause. And once we've finished this first session, we do have a second session, but it's a very short clip just to promote our R&D team work. The second R&D team at FESIG actually is tinkering around with the kinetic energy research and development. So we would be doing a short little video clip of an introduction of the members of our second R&D team. And because we are going to open up invitations to the public, to those who are in the know, who have been tinkering around with it, the kinetic energy research, who has some background knowledge and qualification and would be interested in joining our team to progress with the research, you're all welcome. Okay. And well, this is the mechanical engineering group to explore magnetic generating systems. So if you're interested, please stay on. Okay. And then we will just introduce the second team and then we move on. Right. So once the Q&A sessions and everything is done with, we will then adjourn this 96th FESIG meeting to the 97th FESIG meeting on the 2nd of February. And if you want to receive FESIG's reports of all the meetings, I'll look for the join in button, okay? Our website is truevisionofpeace.com/FESIG.html, as you see on the screen here. And if you want to write to me, it's crystal@truevisionofpeace.com. And click on join us and you will be put in the database that you will then get just once a month. We will send out the invitation to join meeting with all the reports in the newsletter, okay? Introduce Clayton properly. Clayton Thomas he's the Root founder, CEO and founder of Root, R-O-O-T, the Root brands. Clayton possesses over 25 years of experience in health and wellness, and growing up in an animal veterinary practice in Southwest Washington, Clayton has a unique background in integrative therapies and research science that started in animal health. Having a degree in humanities with a focus in communications, business, and kinesiology, his broad studies have allowed for history that includes research and formula development. For the last 16 years, Clayton has focused on detoxification and supplementation formulas and business ventures. His background has included environmental and human health solutions, but he has remained dedicated to animal health. An entrepreneur in the healthcare industry, he has developed business models of analytical testing in medical practices to improve quality of care by identifying risks of the big three diseases: diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity, with additional risk factors. Clayton has served as a business development specialist in every aspect of wellness, sales, distribution, formulation creation, consulting, manufacturing, and now the architect of an entirely new method of business with the Root social sharing community platform. Clayton's mission is to help improve the world through scientific and business approaches. He says his simple philosophy is cure the cause. Thank you, Clayton. Over to you now. Take over the microphone.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy New Year, everybody that's in attendance and everyone watching this. Happy New Year. And like you mentioned, 2022 is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be a lot different than last year and the year prior. But it's also a matter of planning, and because there's going to be chaos. I think the important part for everyone to understand is that growth is painful, right? If you can remember being a child when your teenage years and you started to stretch out a little bit, it was not an easy process, right? It's something that's painful. There's aches, that go along with it. There's agony at times. And, with the growth period that we are in humanity, there's going to be a bit of that. And it's really crucial to understand a couple things. One, that we are all on this journey together, and it's our job as those that are awakening, that really understand this process, that we get to foster relationships and serve as an example, to those that might not be as aware as we are. But what you hit on, the healing aspect to go along with the physics and such, is really important to understand that healing is about energy as well. I mean, so I think FESIG, with the community that you've built and understanding the importance of energy, looking at free energy, we are, that reactor. And it's important. I think it's most crucial to understand that we are light, we are energy, we're the greatest battery, created, and how we put that to use. But, when it comes to this operating system, it all comes down to flow. And there's been multiple generations, thousands of years of influence put on this operating system to influence it. And that's really the foundational point of where we sit. That over the last 2 years, people have had a wake-up call of, wait a minute, our environment is a little bit easy to influence. And we've been put to a tipping point. And if you don't address what's really gone on, we are not going to exist. And we are going to see a lot of people cease to exist in 2022 because of being deceived and because of choosing. And we've really got to do what we can, as a collective to work to correct that. And that's really what Root is based upon. And I created Root as a mechanism to distribute what my wife was put here for. And I think as a man, it's the greatest thing I could do is to find ways to serve your wife, right? And especially when we look at the aspect of divinity and the divine feminine and the important aspect of how we're seeing that develop and how humanity is developing around it. When you understand your mission and purpose, you get to see those things. And my wife was put here. There was a prophecy put over her 25 years ago that she was put here to heal people in a war on healthcare. And who freaking knew what a war on healthcare meant 25 years ago? Because there was no comprehension. And what's important is where my wife comes from and what her journey was. She's a mom of 4, right? So we have 4 amazing kids. We also have 4 dogs. But she had Lyme disease when she was 19. Won National History Day in middle school because she could speed read and she had a photographic memory. It wasn't fair. She just looked at the books and could remember everything, and then tests were easy for her. But when she was 19, she contracted Lyme disease and lost her memory. It took 2 years for her to recover. But when she came out of that, she had the ability to speed read with an eidetic memory, which in a relationship is absolutely unfair because everything that she's around plays out like a movie in her head. She has complete recall. It's horrible. I can never win an argument. But she's had cancer multiple times. She's had a brain tumor, a spinal tumor, had lost kids to cancer. Our 17-year-old had cancer when he was 2. So she's had the journey herself. She has a master's degree, master's in science, a PhD, a PsyD, an EDD, postdoc at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, postdoc at Cornell in pharmaceutical management and nutritional counseling. She was a former adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins in oncology in her late 20s. She's worked at Pfizer, Alexion, Biogen Idec, Johnson & Johnson, UCB, and Bristol Myers Squibb. She's consulted with the Chinese government in setting up hospitals. She's been in 85 countries. She's been told numerous times what was going to happen in this current environment, and instructed by multiple people in different aspects of the world what was coming. And knowing that, she's taken her experience, her knowledge, my experience, and created the solutions for the environment. And that's what's really important to look at. And we'll dive into that a little bit, because when we look at this operating system in the human body, and we talk about energy, there's a couple things that are foundational. One, just like every other aspect of life, you can think of your body as a city. And Christina wrote a book called Cure the Causes. That's as you hear, and it is a foundational phrase in everything that we do, because there's no need to try to cure disease. There's no need to try to cure syndromes or disorders or really anything like that, because they're a moniker provided to a group of symptoms that are all predicated on the same thing: toxicity. In 1974, the World Health Organization, before they became a solely owned empire of Bill Gates and the Illuminati, they published data that at the time, that 85 to 90% of all chronic degenerative diseases were caused by environmental toxins. We've known this for over 50 years. This is not new. Mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum, cesium, strontium, gadolinium. You can throw graphene, you throw glyphosate, you can throw the mold, the fungus, and those components in there. It's these environmental factors that destroy us. It's these environmental factors that are the key components that are disrupting our entire systems today. It's not viral, it's fungal, it's mold, it's bacterial, it's environmental, it's weaponized very strategically. So you have to understand that if you go watch a magic show, you're either going to watch the hand or you're going to watch the trick. Don't watch the trick. And this is the key part, is over a long period of time, we've been put in a position to disconnect us, calcify the pineal gland, disconnect us from our primary source, disconnect us from our spirituality. Our spiritual antenna, the light center of our brain, they knew that if they load us with fluoride, they're going to turn our ability off to be connected. But then what they did is they loaded us with other antennas. Because if you remember growing up, if you're older than the age of 30, you might remember that we used to have antennas on our televisions or antennas on our roofs, and they're made of aluminum because it's highly conductive. It can receive frequencies. They act as antennas. So you've got mercury, you've got lead, you've got aluminum. Graphene is something people are becoming more familiar with. And you know what's funny? Graphene's a topic of conversation now. They've been loading us with graphene for decades and people didn't have a freaking clue. How do we know that? Carolyn Mansfield, who's a naturopath in the UK, actually extracted graphene from 10-year-old tetracycline. The pills, the black part of the pill, when you look at tetracycline, you break it apart, it's magnetic. It's freaking graphene. So this stuff has been put inside us to calcify this, to create this toxic environment that disrupts our entire function, that turns us into an antenna for negative frequencies. It turns us into a receptacle to hold on to trauma, to hold on to negative energy, to hold on to stress. Because if you look at mercury, lead, and aluminum, they're neurotoxins. Mercury is the worst neurotoxin known to man. It loves the brain. It loves central nervous system. It's highly positively charged, extremely molecularly dense, right? It is the most dense on the periodic table, at least the primary ones. There's no new stuff now that's probably more dense than mercury, but it's also a +3 in charge and it's positively charged. So what does that mean? It means that these positively charged metals are going to hold on to negative components, negative energy, trauma. It holds on to those. So you can't get these things out of your system. You can't go to therapy and you look at past life trauma. How do we hold on to that? Why do we hold on to that? We're not born with a backpack. We're not meant to take this stuff with us. We're not meant to carry the burden. We are made to be able to wash it off. We are supposed to be able to be washed clean. But we've been so poisoned and polluted that we are easily manipulated. There's so many conversations today that you hear the fear mongering over 5G, right? You ever stand next to a radio antenna and you ever pick up FM radio? No, because your body doesn't have the ability to accept those frequencies, right? If it's healthy. It's a matter of not having the right antennas or the wrong antennas to receive frequencies. If you decalcify this, you decalcify your pineal gland and you remove the heavy metals and the other environmental toxins, you're removing the negative antennas. You're reactivating your primary antenna and you can shift. You become more awake, become alert. So, you have the important foundation of connection, and that foundation is what is most crucial. And there's a crystal that's in a class of zeolites called Clinoptilolite, and zeolites are a class of volcanic crystals, minerals, and clays that have been used for millennia for their ability to act as molecular sieves to clean up the environment. And what Christina figured out how to do, and it's been a space that I've studied for the last 16 years. And what's interesting is many people are familiar with quartz and the energetic potential of quartz and what quartz can do. But Clino is something that is extremely unique because it's the most powerful crystal of the group. And I think because of its nature, it has been set aside to have people not be aware of what it's capable of doing. And what Christina figured out how to do because of her background is how to take this crystal, how we break it apart, how we nanotize it. We load it with trace minerals because it's a very unique crystalline honeycomb cage structure. And instead of having a full big honeycomb like you see in a box, we break those cages into much smaller pieces that become more bioavailable but inert, right? So they don't stay in the body. They're like little green garbage trucks that will go into your system and that will start to grab onto the bad stuff. But what we did is we took those green garbage trucks and instead of sending them in empty, we loaded them with good stuff. We loaded it with trace minerals. We loaded it with ascorbic acid and vitamin C, and then we polarized it, right? So we actually enhanced the natural negative charge and the energetic potential of these crystals. Plus it has her intention. So when you take this little liquid, this little guy right here, and allow these fragments to get into your system, it's doing a couple things. It's going to start grabbing onto and binding these toxins head to toe. It's going to start delivering bioavailable silica. And this is the key. We have a problem getting microchips right now. The Chinese have shut off production of microchips, or they're suppressing the availability of microchips that are made of silica. One of the most valuable places in the country as far as real estate, and a place everyone's familiar with because of where the beast comes from, happens to be Silicon Valley. Is it not fitting that the primary building block that we need for regeneration, for function, happens to be silica, bioavailable silica? We don't get enough of it. And it just so happens that this amazing crystal just happens to be nature's most bioavailable, beneficial source of orthosilicic acid and bioavailable silica. So you have this foundational product in Clean Slate that will bind and remove passively the bad stuff, and do so in a manner that allows your system to begin processing these things out over time, slowly, passively, but completely systemically, but also completely controlled by your system. It is not something that is specific to every individual. Everybody is unique. We are all human, at least most of us. My wife, questionable. I don't think she's from here. But we all suffer from the same condition. We are all human, yet how our systems function because of our environmental exposure from conception all the way through, we're all uniquely different because these toxins, pollutants, chemicals all build up in our system in different areas and they manifest differently. So when you start this process of cleansing and removal and regeneration, every one of us have a different journey. What's made really unique. The second component, and really all of this focuses around this one area, is the gut, right? So you have the gut-brain connection. We hear the importance of both brains. One's controlling your immune system and one's controlling the rest of your operating system. We really don't know which one's more influential at this point, but we know you have to address both of them. And there's a couple things you have to address with them. One, you got to clean them up. So you got to get the toxins out of your gut. You got to get the stuff out of your brain, but it's how you get them out of your brain that's crucial. And we'll hit on that in a minute. I'm going to make my notes so I don't forget. So you've got to clean this stuff out. So Clean Slate does that. The second component is Restore, which is a functional, you can say a functional gel that's a combination of some of nature's most powerful components that Christina sourced to create a quantum nano emulsion technology for delivery. She learned how to do this when she was at Harvard studying nanotechnology and bioscience engineering. In the class, I was fortunate enough to sit in some of the classes when she was online. You have people from biotech, the military, research, and then my wife, who was a little bit of all of it. But there's some very unique things that they were taught, and because of her work in biotech and pharma over the first part of her career, there are mechanisms and processes and things that they know how to do in biotech and pharma that the rest of us don't get access to. She's one that's able to cross over because she was there, she understands it. And what we'll hit on a little bit, back 16 years ago when Bristol Myers Squibb was doing HIV research on mRNA vaccines, she was actually on the research team. She knows the data. She knew what was coming. She knew that what's being done now should never have been done on humans, because that's what everyone's talking about, is the outcomes are not something that one would have ever expected from something that was claimed to be of benefit to you. This stuff was never intended to be of benefit. It's evil. And you have to accept that. And it's what you're going to do about it. And the problem that we see now is not viral. It's fungal, it's mold, and it's the suppression of your immune system that causes an overgrowth of fungus and mold, causes these things to explode. Because what's happening, and she actually called this many months ago when this campaign started. She's like, people are going to have an autoimmune deficiency syndrome. And if you remember back in the 80s and 90s, when that term actually meant a lot more than it does now, no one wanted AIDS. Yet now people are electing to have it provided to them unknowingly. So you have to be able to address the environment of the gut, that leaky gut issue that many people have. You need to start to close up that leaky gut. So we've got Restore to assist in that. It's a combination of ingredients, like I said, that is a gut bomb for mold, for fungus, for yeast, all the bad stuff. Helps to put the microbiome back in a position where it's functioning properly. The third's probably the most, well, I won't say the most important, but the most fun. It's my favorite of the 5 products we have currently. It's a product called Zeolite. It's a neurotransmitter activator that actually feeds the gut the ability to produce more dopamine and serotonin on demand. Why is this important? Because 90 to 95% of all of your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut, not your brain. And through your vagus nerve, that gut-brain connection takes place. Your gut is where that's produced. Those neurotransmitters are then sent to your brain so you feel good, you function better. Why is this important? Because dopamine is the most powerful neurotransmitter we make. It's the reason Rick James said cocaine's a hell of a drug, right? We need more dopamine. And the crazy part is cortisol, the stress hormone, actually shuts off your ability to produce dopamine and serotonin. Toxicity of heavy metals, toxicity of glyphosate shuts off your gut's ability to produce dopamine and serotonin. This is also the reason that people are buying melatonin supplements like crazy. It's the reason that you see commercials all over for sleep support. Is it pillows? Is it a mattress? Is it melatonin supplements? Is it valerian root? Is it all of these different things to help you sleep at night? Here's a little interesting pathway for you. Your pineal gland converts serotonin to melatonin. So if they calcify your pineal gland, you can't sleep. You know what happens if you can't sleep? You can't dream. They own you at that point because we're no longer connected. We can't solve, we can't create because in our dreams, and they show this to you. They make the movies about it. You've probably seen Inception. They turn off your ability to do it. But here's the fun part. If you decalcify your pineal gland, and then you're able to boost your dopamine and serotonin levels, and then through your intention, what you want to do. Do you want to do more work? Do you want to sleep? Do you want to meditate? Do you want to have more fun doing anything you want to do? You want to make cleaning the house and doing laundry fun again? You want to clean your kitchen with a toothbrush and have it be entertaining? That's dopamine and serotonin. The amazing part is when your serotonin and dopamine levels are boosted, when it's time for you to go to sleep, when you have the intention, the serotonin goes to your pineal gland, it converts to melatonin, you're out like a light. But there's an interesting chemical pathway that goes along with that. Extra serotonin actually converts to DMT. You don't need mushrooms. You don't need microdosing. It's endogenous when your neurotransmitter pathways actually work properly. Boosted dopamine and serotonin. The serotonin converts to extra DMT. You start dreaming lucidly. And then the dopamine kicks in the morning, so you wake up refreshed. Simple biology. So it's the important part of playing with these pathways and playing with our biochemistry to put us in a position that makes us more amazing. So with that, the last one, which we actually just launched today, is called Relive. And that's the greatest greens you've ever had. Extremely gut supportive, improves your metabolism, improves overall health and well-being. They're absolutely amazing. And through the combination of these guys, it puts your body in a position to be much more abundant and functional. But in this environment, I'll show you a case study really quickly because we're not big on claims. We can talk science all day long, which is why I love this platform. But let's look at a case study. Given this current environment, and we'll talk through some of these points, and then Crystal can show a couple videos from some of our researchers to discuss some of these things as well. Oh, let me see here. Got that. And make sure I'm doing this right. I've got this pulled up here. And there we go. I'll share this. So we'll dive into some of these slides real quick. You can see some of our medical disclaimer. What we're going to go over is for entertainment purposes, not for medical purposes. Dr. Dori Narbo is one of our collaborating PhD researchers. She's in Norway. She's published multiple books. She's one of the leaders in research on stem cells. And my amazing wife, the Dr. Ram. This case study that we're going to review is done by Dr. Norbert Keskes. Dr. Keskes is in Hungary. He is the primary physician for, I believe, the Hungarian Olympic Committee, works with elite athletes all over Eastern Europe, very well established. This is done on an individual who had post-COVID syndrome, but we also double jabbed by our friends at Pfizer. So we're going to look at this. It's an interesting case because you've got the convergence of both issues, and we'll look at how these play into. There's a couple factors that are really important to understand, and this goes across the board. No matter the age, those that are being compromised with these issues have multiple comorbidities. The issues in kids are kids that are obese. So if you have multiple comorbidities, if you're overweight, if you're insulin resistant, if you have all these issues, if you're really toxic, which we all are, and depending upon how those toxins are affecting your system, the impact of this is going to vary. Sometimes it can kill you. So we look at some of the symptoms of the long-term effects in the post environment. Shortness of breath, chest pain, severe fatigue. You can see the predisposing factors: chronic cardiovascular issues, chronic respiratory issues, metabolic issues, obesity, smoking, extreme stress. Anybody under stress ever? Oh yeah, all of us. So some of the long-term factors. And some of the fun data. I'm going to hit through some of these here. So this is the protocol that was used. You have a couple things. You see the proprietary blend 1. This is clean slate. Proprietary blend 2. That's 0 in. Proprietary blend 3. That's restore. 40-year-old patient suffering from an infection in May. Regular sportsman, non-smoker, not obese, mild symptoms, including fatigue, fever, all this stuff, lost his taste and smell after 2 weeks. They disappeared. But then in the middle of October, started to have difficulty breathing, severe fatigue, dizziness, brain fog. You can see some of the data. His liver enzyme levels were out of range. Actually horrible. So you can see his OSAT and ALAT levels. OSAT, these are the two measurements for liver function, right? And this is what's really important to understand. If you look at data, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, not cirrhosis from alcoholism, but non-alcoholic fatty liver, is something that 30% of the US population is now identified to have. Why would that be the case? What causes a fat buildup? Toxins. What's the primary filter of the body? The liver. So the more polluted you are, your body is going to store these toxins in fat. That's why people become obese. But it's also stored in your liver. If your liver becomes overburdened, it's going to build up fat to protect the liver to keep it functioning versus shutting down. Because you know what happens when your liver shuts down? You die. So it's going to naturally protect that. This is the issue. So look at this. Normal range, 0 to 50. He was at 105. That's not very good. ALAT, he was at 192, range is 0 to 50. you could say over time, that's going to lead you to problems. Treatment protocol, he started with 1 sachet of Restore in the morning for 7 days, then went to 1.5, and then 2, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. He was using 0 in, 1 in the morning for 3 days, and then 2 daily after that. And then 5 drops twice a day of clean slate, morning and night, and then bumped up a little bit. After 2 weeks, fatigue and dyspnea decreased, headaches stopped, dizziness, limb numbness. After a month, all the stuff had disappeared. Here's the fun part. Liver enzyme values normalized, went from, let's go back. I can do this. How do I go back here? Numbers don't lie. 105, 192. 52, 50. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I would say that's statistically significant to see in 30 days. His pro-BNP, which we were looking at, went from 360 to 170, and he was able to return to regular exercise. Some of the corresponding data that goes along with that. This is why we see the outcomes. So when they say the science doesn't lie, this is what's important. In order to be functional in today's environment, you have to address the key underlying factors, and you've got to do so in a way that's not been done before. You know, what we're fortunate to have is, you know, the quantum pseuticals that have been created for the first time to address this. And, you know, Crystal, I'm going to let you play a couple clips from the videos to hit on some of these key components, so we can see, not just from me and not from going over slides, on what others have seen. Maybe we could pull Michelle on here to talk about it a little bit as well, because her experience has been one that supports it.
Sure,
but
Clayton.
Go right ahead.
I'm ready. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. Okay, so what's happening is Pontus was playing the video of Dr. Stefan Rouse test, before and after test, from the 37-minute
roots restore. This is the design of this measurement we have. We do the first test on the Sunday, the 30 May, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the second 2 hours later at just about 6 p.m. 2 hours later, only with restore. And you just see these slides before, when I had this call last year about the heart rate variability. On the left side, you see before, and on the right side, after this measurement. 5 minutes, then this client took 1 restore, and then this is on the right side, the measurement 2 hours later. And what we see here is the ECG, the electrocardiogram. Below there is the rhythmogram. You see it's not, it's just a line, yeah. And on the right side, you see it's like waves at the beach in the water. This is more resilient. Here are the different systems we have, and these levels we have here, A, B, C, D. In conclusion are the health index, and the heart rate variability increases, or the health index increases up to 37% after using the restore. This is one of the most interesting things, how to, what happens with the stress. You see also here above before and here after this test. And on the right side, we have the stress index. The stress index was really good with 183, but after taking restore, it reduces the stress index down to 87. Here you see these ranges. There's another slide. It's about the total power. Here you have an explanation of this total power, the scales of the values, and the normal range is from 2,300 to 4,500. In the first test we made, the total power was up to 835, really low. And after using Restore, 2 hours later, it was at 2,600, the total power. It's amazing. It's increasing also total power, but only in the timeline. It needs a little bit. This is the neurohormonal regulation also increases. Root restore ameliorate the neurohormonal regulation. Here is an explanation of these charts we've done here before. It was really good, and after, amazing. And you see here stable neurohormonal balance after taking it. It increases from 64 up to 95%. It's amazing. The energy is one of the most important things, because I told everyone you have to do you have to increase your energy. It's so important. And when we see here in the first test 170 energy resources, and later after taking it 353, and the energy balance also ameliorates. Next test is the brain. It's interesting, the brain, to see. We have here a small slide, a small film. Perhaps you can see this. There's still some action here in the brain before the psycho-emotional state is at 49, and after taking it, this is working very well and very fast in the test room. When you stay in the test, you can see very quickly what happens there. And also the brain waves. So today we said it's a peripheral brain continuum. You see that there is an increase to from disorder, stress, fatigue to a cognitive capability. And here's an explanation of these different areas of the brain waves. Amazing. In this numbers here, in this area, you are in the present. Yeah. Biological age. This lady at about 55 years old, and in the first test 48. And after using the Restore, 2 hours later, she is 34. And this is an overview over these levels you see before. It's like a pie, you can see here, the ABCD and the health index. We have some other measurements about the natural or Eastern medicine, and we can see the aura before and after. Improves the energy field of the aura. These are the chakras before and after, and this is an explanation from the software, and we have this explanation in the software as well as in the manual we have here, and you can see where it increases or not. And we also can see in the next slide what happens with the meridians. It's amazing. This is a resume, and you see here the regulatory hierarchy of these A, B, C, D levels and what happens here. And above are once again the ECG and the rhythmogram. And you see very quickly where you have an improve in these different levels here. But in this case, the health index is plus 37%. This is about the Restore. Now we want to talk about the Trinity, and you know what Trinity means. For Clayton, it means Control, Alt, Delete. control your brain, alternate your microbiome, and delete your toxins. And you find these three things in root. Again, here you see reset, control, detoxify, and alternate. And the Trinity stands for zero in, restore, and clean slate. I hope you're ready for your great reset. I'm still looking at other great resets, but you have to look here for your great reset. It's the same measurements, but the second test is after 20 minutes. It was on Friday, the 4th June, the morning at 8:30, and the second test at about 8:50, 20 minutes, about 20 minutes. And we see the same here. Here is an increase from 48% in 20 minutes after using the Trinity. You see these waves here, the more waves. Just like in the other test. This is also the stress level was very good before and after. It was 46. But I want to show you some other slides because it's the same as before. We show you some vitality measurements we have here. You see the vitality increases from 46 up to 433 in about 20 minutes. And this is one interesting point, because when you see that the vitality is very low, you have to think about detoxification or gentle therapies. This we have before, increase of the energy pyramid. But also we can see what happens with the biological age from 53 to 32. It's amazing. This is the biorhythm. Root Trinity harmonizes your biorhythm. When you think about the biorhythm, you also have to think about the melatonin. Not only because of the circadian biorhythm, but it's very important to understand when you have too much cortisol in your body, you have problems. And this influences your circadian rhythms and other biorhythms too. And this is an harmonization with Trinity of the biorhythms, up to 97%. We also have these alternative medicine measurements, the aura from 48 to 96, the same results. Here, once again, the meridians. And what I want to point out is the special measurement about the doshas. Also, we can measure in this system. And there is an interesting scientific paper 5 years ago about the doshas brain type. We have to look on the, we can have a look on the brain types of some people. And the important thing is that these three doshas have to be in balance. This is important. But this paper is so interesting, and I know that I'm more the pitta brain type, but others are more vata brain type, and you have to look what's behind there. When you see the pitta brain type, people are stronger reactions to challenges, are tenacious. For example, I know that I'm tenacious sometimes, goal-orientated, and these measurement also we can do here with this heart rate variability of Niels. Okay, here is the resume of this measurement, the same as before. The health index increases to 48%, and you can have a look on these different levels here in the regulatory hierarchy. It's not important to be better than someone else, but to be better than yesterday. And this is from Kana Jigoro. I do a lot of sports in the past, also Taekwondo. And some of you perhaps know Jigoro. Jigoro is the founder of the judo. And you have to go on your how it's called in English, I don't know, on your border. Yeah. It's not important to be better than someone else, but to be better than yesterday. At least I want to show you a single case study of the Root Trinity and the ROFUS. The ROFUS stands for Register of the Functional Emotional State Assessment. We do a test with this device very quickly at the wrist. And then we can see there's a first test with the Trinity On the left side, you see the functional state of different organ systems. On the right side, you see the energy resources. This is the first test without. This is the second test with the root trinity, about 20 minutes later. And you see an improvement of the energetic resources here. And I do another test, the third test, and you see in the third test, it improves again. Change a little bit, but improves again. We can compare these three tests in this system. This is here on the left side without. This is the first, and this is the second. This is without using Trinity, the first test and the second. Yeah.
Microscopy. So I'll just put it.
Go ahead and let you go ahead and take the floor. And first, we're going to talk about, well, we're going to talk about blood. That's our topic today, right?
The blood, Rollo's blood, and before the clean slate and after. And then on the 14th minute on, it's showing blood after injection, the facts, toxicity and microdot, and 1 month after the injection, 4 months later after the injection, aggregation. And then on the 34th minute on to the 43rd minute, the quantum physics of the microbiology explained. Do you want to take that over, Clayton, or do you want to leave it to Pontus to share?
Clayton, your mic is muted.
You might have the consistency or the constituency of what that substance was primarily made up of, right? So if you have this amazing little crystal, the sodium aluminosilicate that makes up Clinoptilolite,
I think Clayton did explain that earlier in the presentation.
Those fragments are no longer
go to the blood, yeah, the blood, the blood video. That would be good. Yeah.
Or when you're watching this video and you want to understand what makes clean slate unique, this is the starting point. 66% silica. This is the crucial component. 66% of the structure of this amazing crystal that we work with is silica. So what does that make when you process it properly, going back to the process that we use to make this? It creates a massive amount of bioavailable silica. Is it Clinoptilolite anymore? Not when you break it apart. That's what we start with the raw, right? That's our raw ingredient product. But see how many fragments are there in concentration. And the same goes here at 500 nanometers versus here. Do you see a difference? Look at this image with the number of fragments, the concentration of fragments versus the concentration of fragments here. There's a little bit of a discrepancy, right? Broad range of fragments and a whole lot more of them. And this is one of the reasons that you can take one drop of clean slate and start to get amazing benefits, because the concentration is so much higher, but functionality is completely different. Because when you look at these little guys, they're glowing. Look at the comparison from a light standpoint with what this guy shows versus what's over here. And just look at the sheer amount of fragments going through here comparatively, right? So there's one analysis. Then we look at product B. This could be the Zoe product, or the, let me see which one. It's either Clear TRS or Zoe Global. Those were the three products that are compared in this. But now let's look at the comparison of this. We'll go A first, and then we'll look at B. Side-by-side imagery, right? So you have a good amount of fragments here, and look at the comparisons in sizes. A little bit different, right? So you get 90 nanometers in size. And what's interesting is both of these products on the A images and B images claim to be nano in size, claim to be some of the smallest structures available. Yet when you compare We have to look at the
Okay.
concentration, right?
Okay, we can
The
stop.
fragment sizes.
I think we got Clayton's attention now. Yeah, Clayton. Hi, Clayton. Oh, bear with us because Clayton's occupied right now. So we're playing this video. Go on then, Pontus.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, bro.
Very perfect sample. When we're looking at red blood cells, these are the bubbles that we see. We want them to be lovely and round and roughly the same shape and size. We don't want them to be attracted to each other. A healthy red blood cell should have a negative charge on the outside. And the job of the red blood cell is to deliver nutrients and oxygen to tissue throughout the body. It goes absolutely everywhere, and to remove waste products. So it's sort of like, the delivery truck and the dumper truck. It's just very important. It's the basis of our health, really. If our red blood cells are working efficiently for us, then we're going to have very good health. And we also, the solution that the red blood cells are floating in, our plasma, that needs to be healthy as well. Blood always maintains a pH of 7.4, but if we get sick and we're eating a lot of the wrong types of foods, a lot of pesticides in them, if we have heavy metal toxicity, if we're just eating a lot of junk foods, then this is going to affect our nutrient levels, which then affect our red blood cells, because our red blood cells allow nutrients to be healthy. And if our system is more sort of clogged up with toxins, then our cells are going to hold on to those toxins and heavy metals as opposed to nutrients. So then we can end up with nutrient deficiencies as well. So everything really starts off at cellular level for our health. And that's why it's so fascinating to look at people's blood and help them this way to find sort of root causes as to what's, possibly going on with their health. Yeah. So here we have another example of blood, but as you can see, it's not looking too great. We've got a lot of stacking of red blood cells called rouleau. So when the blood is like this, it's not going to be delivering the oxygen and nutrients sufficiently. Red blood cells are roughly 7 to 8 microns in diameter, and a capillary is about 3 to 4 microns in diameter. So they have to be on their own, very flexible to be able to do the job they've got to do to deliver the oxygen and nutrients and take all the waste products. So when we have the red blood cells sticking like this, we're going to have problems with oxygen. We may feel very fatigued. We're not going to be removing toxicity from our cells very well. So we'll end up sort of toxic. We're not detoxifying correctly. And we have problems with circulation and just maybe feeling the cold more. The circulation's just not getting around the body. So there's a lot of symptoms that we can get when we have rouleau like this. And rouleau can be happening for a number of reasons. And it depends on the overall picture that we see in the blood. We may see other anomalies in the blood, and then we can get an idea of possibly the potential reason for rouleau.
Okay, so here is my blood this morning. I did take 2 drops of clean slate last night, but I just wanted to show my before and after blood sample. I'm going to take 10 drops of slate now, and then I'll redo my blood, and let's see. Okay, so here is. Okay, and so just going in for higher magnification so you get a closer look at that. Sort of like beautifully just bouncing off each other, not sticking in any way, shape or form.
Okay, so basically this is the blood samples that I provided for Clayton a few months ago in September, where we're looking at how the blood reacts when we take clean slate. And we discussed this earlier, because my blood doesn't have too many anomalies in it. We didn't see a great difference, but what we did see was a zooped up charge in the cells. There's a lot more movement. It's what we call zeta potential. So it just helped with that, just more vitality in the blood, which is quite interesting for just such a short experiment. Yeah. And I think you're discussing this.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article that came out. It's a study, and it's called, red blood cells may be the immune sentinels. So red blood cells are by far the most abundant type of cell in the human body, accounting for more than 80% of all cells. We have somewhere between 25 and 30 trillion red blood cells in our bodies to supply tissue with oxygen. And one recent study found that red blood cells are the immune system sentinels and can actually scan for signs of infection and injury. And the red blood cells can capture suspect DNA from invaders or damaged tissue and alert the immune system of impending danger. So the principle, or in principle, red blood cells would make good protectors of the human body, not only because of their numbers, but also because they penetrate the nooks and crannies of the organs and tissues. And researchers once believed that red blood cells were nothing more than a vacuous bag of hemoglobin transporting oxygen. However, in a study, a 2018 study, researchers determined that the red blood cells harbor a sensor-like, they call it toll-like receptor, it's TLR9, which recognizes and sticks to DNA molecules containing pairs of nucleotide bases, the cytosine and the guanine. And the TLR9 binds the DNA present in the bacteria and viruses and triggers a signaling cascade that leads to pro-inflammatory cytokine response. So what that does is it actually incites a strong immune response. And when red blood cells, then they latch onto DNA drifting in the circulatory system, they begin to pucker, like you can see here. That's what's happening here. They're puckering, right? Because they're picking up the damaged cells. So this is really important to understand because researchers state that nearly all critical care patients that are anemic by their third day of being admitted into an ICU. So I thought that was pretty significant. So as blood passes through the spleen, immune cells called macrophages ordinarily devour old and damaged red blood cells. Healthy red blood cells can avoid being cold if they display a particular don't eat me protein on their surface. And if the macrophages consume too many red blood cells, anemia results. So remember, like in many of our other talks, we've talked about that the renewal of red blood cells takes 120 days to replenish itself. But I thought that this article was really interesting because you'll see why in the next slide. Did you have anything to add to that, Caroline?
Yeah, it's just very interesting, that article, because we've always just assumed that red blood cells are just the delivery truck, as I said, and the dumper truck. We didn't actually think they actually actively participated in the immune system. So this is quite amazing, actually, and very new to me, because when we look at those red blood cells that are puckering, it's what we call poikilocytes. And we would assume, we see them when there is infection, and toxicity in the system, and we always put that down to lack of antioxidants, basically. But this is throwing a whole new light on poikilocytes, in fact. It's just fascinating to have a discovery like this about the red blood cells. Yeah.
Right, and this puckering effect, which we'll see next.
Yes, which is quite significant because in this photo, this is somebody's blood 24 hours after an injection. So it kind of really does relate to what you were just saying. Now you can see the oxidative stress, which I call it, of the cells, which is the membrane itself just completely collapsing in on itself, which just shows there is a high element of toxicity within this person's blood at this particular site. Now I took this blood sample from the actual injection site in the upper portion of the arm. So that's just very interesting because I just put this down to the fact that there was obviously toxicity within the injection solution that the blood was reacting to, but there could obviously be more going on than that. Mm-hmm. So when the cells are looking like that, they're just not delivering, the nutrients as they should, or are working efficiently for you. This is another blood sample from a lady. It was 1 month after having an injection. And this lady was presented to me because she has bad circulation and it got progressively worse. And she was feeling cold all the time. She couldn't warm up. And when we're looking at blood, we're looking at a whole picture. We can't just take, you've got, one anomaly and, we can't diagnose anything from live blood analysis. It's really is, we look at the full picture. And in this lady's picture, we can see that we have rouleau, the stacking together of the red blood cells. So that inhibits circulation. We also have some fibrin formation, which is, it looks like little spider webs, what we call spicules. They usually present themselves with sort of acute phase proteins when the liver is dealing with infection of some sort, or there's toxicity within the system. So we've got, that's number 2. And then number 3, we have platelet aggregation. So this is platelets budding, sort of microclots. So when we've got the 3 together, then we can say there's an element of thrombosis going on with this patient. But we're also looking at, we scale it. We see how much rouleau is there, how much fibrin formation is there, and how many platelets, platelet aggregations are there. Are there mega aggregations as well? So, bigger patches. So this lady has a lot of rouleau in her system. She had mild, really, fibrin formation, and the platelet budding was small across the sample. So, she's heading towards a potential problem with thrombosis. But it was just very interesting to see her blood, considering she came to me for the fact that she can't warm up and her circulation is very, very poor, having 1 month after the injection.
Oh, this is 1 month after. Okay. And it's interesting because you can see here, this little fibrin is all over here.
Yeah. And also it just depends how quickly it comes onto the sample as well, as another indication of how, how the body is dealing with some type of toxicity as well. And it was present, more or less straight away. Yeah, so it is across the sample. And when we have that fibrin formation, that also causes a stickiness. So that doesn't help with the rouleau. And then we have another sample. This is a gentleman, another person, 4 months after an injection. And he has a lot of erythrocyte aggregation. So a lot of clumping together of red blood cells again, which will be inhibiting circulation. If we have a lot of erythrocyte aggregation like this, it's an indication that this person could be heading towards some kind of heart problem, because the blood's just not going to be circulating as efficiently as it should. And clumping together is something that we don't want our blood to be doing. As I said, healthy blood cells should be bouncing off each other and, around the body, doing the job that they're supposed to do. Okay, so do you want me to describe what we were doing?
Yes. Yeah, these are your experiments.
Yeah, okay.
We have several experiments to go over.
So basically, I saw online that somebody had posted up that they had discovered that the capsule of an antibiotic, one half of the capsule, which was the dark color, was magnetic, and the other color, which was a yellow-orange color, was not. And I was quite intrigued by this. So I thought, I'm going to try and replicate the study that he did, or this little experiment. And if it does turn out to be true, then I'm going to put this under the microscope and see what's going on here, what we find. So I dug around in sort of medicine cabinet I had at home, and I found this really old packet of antibiotics. And lo and behold, when I broke open the capsule, I mean, it was already magnetic before I broke it open, but I broke it open, and the dark side of the capsule was actually sticking, attached to the magnet. So it was highly magnetized. So I decided to dissolve it in some warm water, which is what the person did online. And once it was dissolved, the black capsule completely disappeared, because it's just supposed to be a gelatin capsule with coloring in it. But when I put the magnet up to the glass, all these little particles suddenly appeared, which we will see.
Okay, so is there here's something.
Yeah. So you can't see anything there. It's all completely dissolved, just one half capsule. And slowly you can see these little black particles appear, and they follow the magnet like little fish. So I was very intrigued by this. So I thought, well, let's get this out. No, I left it actually. What I did, I put clean slate in the water. And because I thought, let's put clean slate to the test to see whether it's able to somehow neutralize the particles. So after 48 hours, I left it and now I put 4 drops in, and I tried the magnet again. And you can see that the little black particles are very slow now to come to where the magnet is. It was a bit tricky to try and get them to come together. It wasn't instant like it was 48 hours prior with the clean slate in the water solution. But eventually a few do come, and we've got a little bit of a pull. So being intrigued further, I thought, well, let's try and take this substance out of the solution and put it on a slide, and let's take a look at it under the microscope, which is exactly what I did. I had to get the black stuff onto the end of my magnet because it was very difficult to get out, put it onto the slide, and I put some of the clean slate and that solution onto the slide as well, covered it with a slip, and then put it under the microscope. and this video. Then I'm just showing you, this is the first picture that we see of what these little black particles look like under the microscope. So it's nothing I've seen before in live blood analysis. And then I want to show you how they, is that the same video?
Oh, that was the same. Okay.
Yeah. And then I wanted to show you how these little particles are actually moving when I put the magnets just above the cover slip under the microscope. You can see on the screen, the bits that we saw moving in the solution are now moving under the slide. So, you know, I went back as far as 4 inches and it was still, you know, feeling the pull from the magnets. It's a highly magnetized little thing. So very strange to look at. So then I went in a bit closer, and we can see here on the right the ultraviolet crystal. This is one of the Clinoptilolite crystals, and then to the left, the green thing is one of those magnetized particles from the substance. And I'm using the magnet again on the slide, so you can see that I think it does begin to move. There we go.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah. So then I wanted to try and find on my slides, has the Clinoptilolite crystals attached to any of these magnetic particles? That's what I was trying to find. That, you know, that was part of my experiments for putting clean slate inside the solution. So I think in the next slide, there we go. So I hunted around and then I found it finally. So we can see a Clinoptilolite crystal with one of the, you know, magnetized particles actually attached to the Clinoptilolite. And I was like so excited to find this because, you know, Clayton often talks about, you know, grabbing sort of particles and pulling them out of the body. And this is a great example of, you know, of what he talks about. And at one point, because the substance, when we're putting water under a slide, it's completely different viscosity to blood, which is a lot thicker. So the water kind of just sort of disperses, and some of it was coming out the edge of the slide. And when I was looking at that under the microscope, it had formed its own little river just towards the edge. It's hard to explain, but there was obviously just some kind of air bubble lock or something. And I saw this piece of the magnetized substance going along, and it was heading right towards a crystal, you know, Clinoptilolite crystal. And by the time I was looking at it, and I wanted to try and get it up onto the screen to film it for you. But what I saw through my eyepiece was the magnetized particle went straight and hooked onto the Clinoptilolite crystal. And I was like, yes, it works. This is what happens. You know, there's an attraction there. But I couldn't film it in time, and then it whizzed off down, you know, down the little river it formed. So it was a very interesting experiment to do. It was quite exciting to find these discoveries at such high magnification. We can actually see, you know, what we talk about. We've got a visual on it. Now, this for anyone who didn't see the video before that Clayton did, when I put just clean slate under the slide by itself, these strange lines formed after a couple of hours. I think, do you have the video to play there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is at 200 times magnification. I just wanted to show you. So I put the clean slate on a slide probably about 3 hours ago, and I left it. And I've come back and I can see that all these lines seem to have formed, which I don't really understand. And all the beautiful zeolite crystals follow the line. Can you see? They seem to want to be on the line. If we keep going on, you can see the line I'm talking about, this one here. And there they go, they're on the line. I've never seen anything like this. It's like it's a structured line they've created. And they're just so beautiful. I just thought, I took 10 drops myself this morning, and I almost cried because I thought, this is inside me, and they're this beautiful ultraviolet blue light emanating from these crystals. I just thought it was so special. Look, can you see the lines? And then when the line comes to an end, sometimes you just zoom across to another line, and then they're going. Let's see if we can come to that. Let's see if this comes to an end. Yeah, so we've come to an end of the line here. Can you see this? Like, so there's nothing above. Oh, sorry. Nothing above there, apart from that little one. So if we just go over here, and up we got another line, and off we go again. And here, and they're on the lines. Just beautiful and amazing and awesome. A joy to look at.
Caroline, can I interrupt you real quick? Because my compatriot who's sitting next to me wants to provide a little insight.
Oh, I'd love some insight on it for sure. Hello.
Yeah, so I'm a nanotechnologist. So my background is human monoclonal antibodies and infusion. So when you do that, you create a molecule that goes in, and it's very similar when you do vaccines or retroviruses. You program them to go in to communicate with other cells to either change or correct or to look different. we can't make that claim. This is a nutraceutical. Many of you guys know that I also filed for pharmaceutical and biotech when I file my patents, as well as environmental. Anytime I work on formulas, it's not just with my science nanotechnology background or bioscience engineering, it's also with intention. And I know a lot of scientists would not understand that, just like a lot of scientists in the past did not understand the black hole theory and the string theory, which is quantum physics, right? When you create something with the intention and with the process, because it's multiple processes that, which is why there's a lot of people that want to attack, what I do or what the company does, because this process is not something that anyone's done before. It's a process that I utilized vitamin C and different methods around the vitamin C, as well as different energy levels, as well as magnets, as well as polarization, as well as fracking, to create something that could go in to communicate in a not just eradication format. So my goal was not just to get rid of bad things, because all of the Zeolite formulas that I had seen, that I had studied, I researched all the patents, I even met with people, they all had different, how do I say this, different missions, right? Different goals in those formulations. And most of the goal was always to get rid of heavy metals in the body. My goal in creating the formulas that I worked on were to also protect the cells against parasites, fungus, bacteria, and viruses, to align the ability of a product to go in and create harmony in a body, as well as to eradicate. So it wasn't, and I talk about this a lot when I do talks, I have to be very careful how I communicate this on this call, because this, again, is not a pharmaceutical, it's not a biotech. This is not an infusion that goes into the bloodstream. However, most scientists understand that if you put something in the nose, if you inhale it in the mouth, if you put it in the ears and different processes in the body, you can get it to go in and be bioavailable, even topically, right, on the skin, which is why we see so many great results with Clean Slate. But what you're seeing in this analysis that you're looking at is really the body creating an environment, an atmosphere of not just kicking the bad things out of the body, but also harmonizing the body so that you create a harmonious atmosphere. One of the issues with our entire inside community, inside this body, is that there's so much chaos going on. And I say this a lot: if you walk into a room and you're hitting a drum or constantly making noise, no one's comfortable, right? If you can create a peaceful harmony on the outside that our ears hear, we all love it. The goal is inside the body to do the same thing. And when I formulated Clean Slate, that was the goal. Clayton launched one of the formulations I had made at the beginning of the root community. It was not the formulation I wanted, because I wanted to add the trace minerals and the vitamin C so that we could do more healing. My concern was understanding that we were moving towards an environment where our bodies were constantly under attack, and it wasn't enough just to defend our bodies, right, or get rid of the bad things. We needed to create the harmonious atmosphere inside. So it's very similar when you look at the string theory or the black hole theory, time travel, which a lot of people, like I said, dispelled, when in fact in the 1980s we were already doing time travel. It's just that the general public didn't know that. And I just wanted to comment, first of all, thank you so much, Caroline, for doing this analysis. I know I've not met you in person. I really appreciate it. And then I really appreciate you showing this. It's much better than me talking about it. I want to tell you this: I can't make claims. And so for you to do it and Dory to talk about it, I probably shouldn't be on the call, but I've been listening. And I said to Clay, I just want to say something. And that's what I wanted to tell you all, that you are, people, I love this analysis, because when you look up at the stars and you look up at the sky, there's a huge solar system we don't see with our eyes, right? When you put Clean Slate in your body, you have no idea what's going on. And so you're showing people basically science that's on a quantum physics level that is inside the body. And most scientists don't even know how to look at that. But this is one of the best presentations I've seen, because if you guys can just think about this, this product is something that was created, again, not just for our bodies, but for the land, air, and water. And one of the patents that I wrote that we keep getting attacked about is I even wrote that it goes up to the stratosphere, and those patents did get approved, because my goal, again, was to be able to create something that we could utilize here. Some of the classes that I took were around creating life on Mars, because the truth is we can already do that, right? But you have to use things in a different format. Clean Slate has different components in it that could be used in this universe and in many other places. And that's what I'll say to end that.
to hit on just the one thing really quickly. So when you're looking at the lines that form, I was on a chat over the weekend with a couple individuals that provided some insight that I didn't understand, but it's what we hadn't understood before, but Christina just hit on. So when you're seeing the lines that form, and one of the previous videos that Carolyn did, there's multi-layers of lines. The energy aspect of what's created in these crystals is one component. The other part is they're communicating through harmonics. So they're creating different layers. Those harmonics are also what's communicating with cells and with the rest of your body, because you have these frequencies that are communicating. So
we use sound. I use sound, actually. And I have to tell you, when I was in the lab working on this, and then later when I sent the changes that I wanted, I've said this many times, I created lots of different formulas. I actually sang while I was doing it. I actually, I know, it's funny. In science, as scientists, we understand that music is energy, right? We understand there's different levels of that. My mom just happens to be a classical pianist and cellist. I studied music most of my life. I'm not very good at it. I think I'm a much better scientist, but I really think that was part of it, using, and you guys may or may not know this, but magnets and polarization, actually musical theory applies to that. I know that sounds very odd, but when you look at musical theory and you look at mathematics, they're on the same wavelength, which is why most of you musicians, I'll give you an example using my own family. My mother had a full scholarship in classical piano. She also had a full scholarship in statistics. My grandmother had a master's in statistics. And the reason I'm bringing that into play is for whatever reason, that's how my mind thinks. So when I worked on this particular format, it was really incredibly important to me to, again, create something that, when you think of eradicating, you think of destruction. And right now what's going on in our world, unfortunately, there's a lot of destruction. What my goal was in this formulation was during that destruction, right, during that eradication, to create harmony within the body so that you could cause the energy levels within the body to line up so that they would work more effectively together. Scientists understand that a lot better when you talk about pH levels, right? Or microbiome, or different things that have to do with acid levels or CRP or whatever they want to use. But from a perspective, and Caroline, again, I just want to tell you thank you very much, because you bringing this to light and talking about it, you're correct. This is not something typical to see. This is not something that, most people will see. Another argument, I think, is, or from my viewpoint, it's not an argument. My goal was to create a healing with the silica. And that's why I say all the time, yeah, this started with the zeolite, but it's no longer that particular path of a zeolite. It has a much bigger purpose, and it is to eradicate and heal at the same time. I just can't make those claims, especially because they're my formulas.
Yeah.
And now we'll take you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Well,
Carolyn, the floor is yours.
My biggest thing is to say thank you to you and Dory for presenting this, because again, I'm not going to talk much more because I have to be careful. But I did know, Clayton actually knew. I don't know if he's talked to everyone when I did the formulas. And by the way, people have said to me before, was Clayton there when you worked on the formulas? I'll tell you this, I asked Clayton to leave. I said, can you please leave? Because I was trying to concentrate and do a lot of things that I really knew I needed to do that most people would think was weird, right? And most people would not understand. It's very easy for us to understand singing to our children so they'll go to sleep, right? But for some reason, it's hard for people to understand the energy levels of incorporating all those different things when you're doing science. But I do, and that's why I always say I'm an artistic scientist, but none of it matters. The art doesn't matter. The creation doesn't matter unless it helps people. And one of the biggest things I believe is if people can wrap their arms around how this is helping them, it will give them hope, and it will help their bodies even more energetically heal and correct. And I guess that's the final thing I want to say. Again, our goal is to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, because none of us are more important than the other person next to us, but we need to be the best version of ourselves in this journey. And that's the goal of this product, to make each person the best person they can be, but starting on the inside. And then of course that will reflect on the outside as well.
I think what's so amazing is to see it on such, a microscopic level, so people can understand it, from what you're saying. And now you can see, because seeing is believing, right? And it is just so unusual and so different and so special to be able to see this, for people, because you don't often get the opportunity to see something at a microscopic level, what you're taking into you. And especially you've done all this work on this product, and it shows. I replicated the study again. Have you got the slides there, Dory?
I was just so mesmerized by that slide, and I was thinking like, wow, this is like your cellular star system. And I was just thinking like, I wonder if everyone, like, because when we were talking about the patterns yesterday, and I was thinking like, I wonder if everyone has a different pattern, like how, like your pattern's different than my pattern or Christina's pattern. And remember I talked to you about the music, like let's play some music when you do it, just to see what would happen. We talked about the vibration and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting what you were saying, Christina. Thank you so much for bringing some understanding to it. Okay, so here we go.
I think we can stop now, Pontus.
I did the experiment again. So this is left.
Thank you, Pontus. Yeah, it's been long. We are waiting for Clayton. He says, give him a few more minutes. But I guess we can discuss ourselves. And we have to close anyway, because we can't have more than 2 hours, right? And besides, there's going to be another short session coming up. So if we can't wait for Clayton, I guess I will collect the questions and have it emailed to him. Yeah, Clayton,
I'm back.
you're there. Yeah, okay, right, all right, because we're just about to close. We can't have more than 2 hours. If we do, Odyssey wouldn't copy, and then we'll lose out. Yeah. So over to you, Fres, co-chair. Has been waiting a long time.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Clayton. It's been a long time since I've been in university with my doctorate degrees. So some of these things I'm not familiar with, and I'm sure some of our listeners also are not familiar with. In the tests that you did, in the wellness and disease and your testing procedures, are these classically discussed testing, or are these proprietary that gave you these colored charts and things that you were showing?
Yeah, it's all classic testing. It's all, you know, the medical devices that are used are well established class 2, class 3 medical devices used in Europe and the United States. And heart rate variability, the interesting part, honestly, of understanding heart rate variability is something that is becoming more prevalent. You know, I've worked with medical devices here in the US. You know, when I moved to Nashville, you know, looking and understanding heart rate variability in the medical establishment to identify risk factors for cardiovascular disease, neuropathy, insulin resistance. And it's funny when you look at the trends. So yeah, we're not blowing smoke. We're not saying, oh, well, we made this test specifically for us. It's the same thing looking at heavy metal excretion analysis. We've got labs, multiple people, many people looking at baselines, and then usually about a week later of looking at urine excretion analysis on what's coming out, because you can see changes. We're huge in tracking case study data, right? Okay. And you can see some of those on our YouTube channel that clinically, and because of Christina's background being in biotech pharma, when she was in, I can't remember if it was in biotech, she had like a $17 million annual research budget for creating registries and doing research projects with doctors. She understands how to track data, right? We understand the importance of case studies and actually looking at clinical outcomes. You know, that we're not saying, oh, I took this and I felt better. No, let's actually look at clinical case studies and say, you've got non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Your ALAT levels are this. Your enzyme levels are this. If you do this and this, and we follow this protocol over time, we see a reduction in those levels. And then your liver function is normal when it was beyond elevated, you know, for, you know, in this instance that we actually have on our YouTube channel for over a decade, that you've been treated for over a decade, and they've been able to get no improvement, and you do X and Y, and you do that for this period of time, and your liver function is now normal. That's clinically significant. So yeah, it's, you know, it's not just looking at a couple things, it's looking at multiple aspects and seeing these changes across all walks, right? We have newborn babies and we have 90-year-olds and everything in between.
Excellent. I'm familiar with zeolite and the use of zeolite in purification of water and removing, you know, radiation, that kind of stuff from water. There is a overload that if you drink too much water that's going through zeolite, you have a little bit of a problem, especially in the kidney stones and that type of stuff. The one thing that I was looking at, which I found interesting and a bit concerned, is when we look at the sample that had the lines forming in it, and then the almost a string of pearls attached to that. Anytime we are in blood and we start to see things start to string and clump together, as we did in the disease images, it raises a red flag. It goes, oh my goodness, what's going on? Because we're dealing with capillaries that are so small, it doesn't take much to mess them up. And had you had any chance to take a look at or figure out what those lines were representative that showed up in that study?
We haven't been able to really start to analyze what they're doing. What we know is that they're lining up based on harmonics and their energy. And what's interesting, and I don't know, you know, I apologize for having to step away for a second because I had to do another interview real quick. But one of the things that Catherine mentioned is that she was playing music while those fragments were on the slide. And one of the things that Christina actually does when she's creating formulas is she'll sing. She puts that intention, that energy, those frequencies into the products. So when we look at blood and you're looking at rouleau and coining and such, that's, yeah, it's fear. It's like, yeah, that's not good. You don't want that. The interesting component of this, because we are energetic, because we're silica driven and we are crystalline in nature. What we're seeing, because I've had people go, well, what about kidney function and such? I'm like, great. I've had people that had stage 4 renal failure that started peeing in a week. Good. And we're seeing the exact opposite of what people fear because of the mechanisms. And I will tell you, from a quantum physics perspective, I mean, in every aspect of the world, there's a lot we don't understand, and how these are forming and how how they're working together and what kind of formations they're creating in order to do what these little fragments are doing in the body. Do we understand all of it yet? No. Here's what I can tell you, that in 16 years of work and working in the realm of this space, and I've been around the zeolites and clino space for 16 years, doing things the way I've done it, and my experience, I've worked with a couple 100,000 people probably. Never once have I had a single negative outcome. And now in over 2 years of doing what we're doing with over 45,000 customers, we've had no negative outcomes. Excellent. And the clinical data supports the exact antithesis. And what we've seen, and like you can see with what Dr. Rao found, and it's important to understand his background. PhD, virologist, immunologist, medical technologist, one of the leading researchers on vitamin D, one of the leading researchers on the autism spectrum. Very well published, doesn't screw around, completely independent. I mean, he's not our boy. And he came through a referral and started doing his analysis. He's like, I've never seen anything like this before. And that's what's really crucial, is we're really fortunate because of what we're doing and how that we're seeing the outcomes that you'd expect based on what my wife was made to create. And haven't hurt anybody yet, and we see amazing outcomes across the board. We have newborn babies that are getting 1 drop of clean slate, and these kids are walking in 8 months. And they're paying attention. They're tracking literally from day one. The root babies that we had, where moms have been using clean slate during gestation, and these babies are born and they get their drop along with what mom's doing. These kids are tracking when they come out. The pediatricians that are working with this are like, this isn't standard. They're developmentally so much more advanced that they're like, and the top doctor in Slovenia, and she's actually a pediatrician. She's been the #1 pediatrician in Slovenia the last 3 years running, but she's the top doctor in Slovenia right now, Dr. Tina Bozišnik. She works closely with us. She's actually doing a presentation tomorrow on asthma. She's done the protocols for kids and babies and adolescents using our products because of what she's seen. She's wiping out eczema and psoriasis like it's the cakewalk, because it's all liver toxicity.
Right.
But
I'm going to change subjects real quick here.
Go ahead.
You talked about molds and fungi and that type of stuff, and your wife brought up in the video the parasites. Do you want to address the parasites, and are you familiar with polypodium hydroformate?
Polypodium hydroformate, no, but as far as the mold, the fungus, and the parasitic issues, they are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the proliferation of those, along with the heavy metals, the glyphosate, the graphene, they all work together, right? It's all horrific, in this combination. It's important to understand that our microbiome, we're loaded with mold and fungus and yeast and viruses, some good, some bad, and it's how you create that balance. And
right.
It's the reason that the establishment hates ivermectin right now. Because as heartworm medication, and Christina knows the mold and the fungus issue. When she was an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins in oncology, when they did some necropsies, and what's really weird anymore is they don't do necropsies, and you don't see many autopsies. But when you autopsy a cancer patient, what you find is they don't die from cancer; they die from just an absolute explosion of mold and fungus.
Wow,
that's what kills them. It's the fungus. And that's what's killing people now, is an explosion of mold and fungus in your lungs. There's 2 forms of black mold that have been identified in the last 2 years that they'd never seen before in history. I wonder where they came from, almost like they're spraying this stuff on us. And, it's really important to know that you have to create blockades, multiple blockades. It's how they treat HIV and how they treat AIDS. You have to allow your innate immune system to start working properly, but then you have to support it. This is the environment we live in. That's what we're doing, along with some of the other pathways and support mechanisms to that. But very simply, if you're not doing that, your quality of life is going to suck. Something that in India and Africa is known to wipe out most of the issues that they have. Why would we not make that available? and we know
Yeah.
why. But it's
Yeah. Okay. We don't have much time left because we're going on to hit the second hour right now, actually. I am sorry. Actually, I want to thank Michelle Young, my good buddy here in London, for introducing you, Clayton. Yes,
No,
Michelle, you're there. Can we have a word? Because you're a user of Root. So probably you can share with us some of your experience. There you
Yes.
go. Hi,
Hi,
Michelle.
everyone. I'd just like to say I'm so grateful to be taking these products. I have been taking them for 10 months now, and I work on the financial crimes. So I expose the judicial corruption, and I work with all the trauma victims that have suffered through this horrendous crime. And the beauty of these products, they actually help so much with the trauma. So that I've had people that have become schizophrenic from the trauma. One gentleman, he'd been on pharmaceuticals for 30 years, suffering with horrendous trauma and schizophrenia. He's been taking the Root products, he's off all the pharmaceutical drugs, and it absolutely feels incredible. It's the products, personally, my energy levels are so high. I'm focusing so much better. It's totally changed my life, these 3 products. And I think the most fantastic thing where we are now, that the clean slate eliminates the graphene oxide, I think is a huge development within these Root products. So they have so many benefits and they're natural. And I've been taking products since I was 13. I have never, ever felt so good. I've been taking them, as I said, for 10 months. And the longer I take them, the better I feel. And the anti-aging side of them as well is phenomenal.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for introducing Clayton to FESIG.
Well,
Right. Back to you, co-chair Fres, because there's I think we need to close as soon as possible. Yeah. Back to you.
Well, thank you. And I was quickly going. Okay. I'm basically going to say thank you very much, Clayton. And Crystal has information about your website, how people can contact you and your company. So I'm going to turn it back over to Crystal. And we do have to wrap it up. So the ball's in your court, Crystal.
Thank you so much, co-chair. Thank you, bro. Right. I would like to thank Clayton for coming to FESIG to speak and to, well, share with us what he did and how he came up with Root and how Root is going to be the holy grail of supplements for, well, all of us who care to reach out for it. It's going to be the cure. Thank you so much, folks, for attending this meeting. I really, truly appreciate you taking time off to wait and attend. And here we are. Hope 2022 is going to be the year that's going to turn things around for the better. Right. So there being no other sponsors, is there any last say that you want to put in here before we close?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this again with you guys.
Thank you, Clayton. So that's a referral link there you see on the chat. I will put it in the YouTube description as well. So everyone, if there's anything that needs to be said, say it now, unmute. Okay, right. So there being no other business now, this 96th FESIG meeting on the 5th of January is now adjourned to the 2nd of February, the 97th FESIG meeting.